Hello everyone, good afternoon. I am Sahil Kalyani, and today we are going to talk about building a scalable multi-platform OTT app for India. So to get started, let me just tell you a bit about myself. I am working as a front-end engineer at Amazon Mini TV. Anyone knows Mini TV, used Mini TV, watch shows on Mini TV? Okay, a lot of people, great. So, little bit about myself. When I'm not in my natural habitat, that is I'm not coding, I can be found either playing table tennis, watching The Office, or making memes. So I've tried to put some memes in the presentation to make it interactive. And you can connect with me on social media via Twitter. And let's jump in the topic. So coming to the topic, why we want to talk about OTT landscape. Like why do I as a user want to, even try to understand why OTTs are important or why, what goes behind the OTT. So I have some stats collected from various sources. So the market size is of a OTT app in India is USD 5 billion because we are in 23, and so with increased internet penetration in rural areas, we are like going there even closer. So tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, villages, everywhere, the consumption of content is increasing day by day. So OTT plays a pivotal role in that. And 49% of India's youth spends 2 to 3 hours daily. So I bet if you open your mobile history, app history, what app have you spent the most time on? Apart from Instagram, of course, you will definitely find one OTT app in the top 3. So yes, these are some stats that you can go through. Let's go to move on. So yes, why the word India is very important when it comes to talking about OTT. So the Indian audience is not your any other country's audience, I would say, because they are very smart. They request features, they understand the tech, they understand the product like no other set of people do. So these are some real-time comments, not just from Mini TV, from various OTT apps, social medias and Play Store ratings. They put in some very tech-savvy comments like the data consumption is very high when I play this video on HD. So they understand that. They have a cost sensitive mindset where they have a limited data and they want certain things to work certain way. So they have like a lot of, so this is particularly my favorite. The US doesn't look good on mobile devices. So the people are understanding what kind of UX works on mobile, what kind of UX works on desktops, and they have these requirements. They are very vocal about these things when it comes to the feedback. So the Indian audience is not your regular audience. You need to keep them in mind. You need to keep a lot of parameters in mind when you're building for India. So that is why in India is very important. Yes, so let's go through a typical AVOD OTT architecture. So first of all, OTT stands for over the top, but what is this AVOD? Anyone in the audience knows about AVOD? So it means advertising video on demand. So Mini TV is an advertisement based OTT app which does not require subscription. So SVOD and AVOD are the two major categories of any OTT app. So this is like a high level bird's eye view, a very generic architecture. So I'll not dive deep into the backend services because I am a front end guy, of course. And I have not put a lot of things in the front-end service because we'll gradually move on and figure out what happens behind the hood. And there is this one another complete thing that is going on, that is a content that is being ingested, that is being taken care by operations and content team. So what happens is that whenever a content is ingested, it goes to CDN, Content Delivery Network, and based on our app's architecture, we request for that transcoded or encoded video files, and those are then again transcoded on our client device, and it can be any desktop, Fire TV, mobile, laptop, any device that you want. So first we will talk about how do we make the front end scalable and multi-platform, because of course again I am a front end engineer and I know what to talk about front end, and I have absolutely zero idea about back end. So let's talk about front end and the key points. There are, I think, 6 points when it comes to scaling your app and making it multi-platform. So I've tried to cover some. There are a lot more, and I have not included all of them due to the time crunch. So I'll just go through these one by one. So the first one is separation of concern. So separation of concern says that, this principle says that all the layers of your service should be independent, and they should be worried about only one particular feature, that the functionality that they want to serve. And it should not have dependency on each other when it comes to a single thing. Like, if you have a single feature that is being managed by multiple services, even your front-end service can interfere with how your data is being fetched, or your back-end services are also telling you how to render, and front-end is also making some other decision, then it might be a conflict of interest. So there should be a separation of concern, and by implementing separation of concern, you can avoid code duplication basically. And to give you an idea of how this SOC should behave is, your services should be like, I missed the part where that's my problem. So they should be focused only about the responsibilities that they are meant to work for. So yeah, next is thin client architecture. Now this is a very mini TV term. I'll explain what this means. But first, let me talk about the server-driven architecture. So I think there is already a talk by Pulkit. He would be diving deep into server-driven architecture. I'll just give a very basic idea of what a server-driven architecture is. This is an architecture where the server tells the client what to render, how to render. So this is an anecdote of what happens. This is your client, and this is your server. And I think most of you might have watched the movie, can relate to this idea, where your server is doing the heavy lifting and client is not doing a lot. So this is a high-level overview. There is a middleware involved, and there is a config layer which basically defines or drives how your UI is rendered. So let's get into the thin client architecture in a bit detail. So coming back to the architecture that we discussed, the generic architecture that I showed at the first. So this is the part that we are interested in. I'm not sure if the highlight is very clear, but I'm trying to focus it. So let's zoom into that part. So this is the part that we are focused about, the front-end service and the client device. Now what we did in this thin client architecture was, we introduced a middleware and a config layer. Okay, so what we are doing is basically we are eliminating the business logic from the client side. I'll come to why we are doing that. We are eliminating the business logic from the client side. How this helps is, this helps if you have multiple front-end services. Say for example, you have a different code base for your web users, another code base for TV, living room devices, Fire TV, stuff like that, and another front-end service for mobile, maybe React Native, Flutter, whatever. So how this helps is, your middleware takes care of what things need to be rendered and how it needs to be rendered. And your front-end services just does the bare minimum that is required. So this is an example of this is a screenshot of the Mini TV app, where we have basically divided the entire screen into widgets. So widgets are basically individual components which can be rendered at a whole. And this widget-based concept comes from the middleware, where the middleware says that we need the player widget. Now the front-end module or the front-end layer takes a call how to render the player. But essentially the player should be rendered first and the description should be second, is the call taken by the middleware. So yeah. And accordingly, whatever your front-end stack is, be it Flutter or React Native or Next.js, or even say plain simple HTML, CSS, that would take care of the rendering. Second one is component design patterns. So we have some code here, because I think most of you guys were waiting for seeing some code, seeing a lot of memes but no code. Yeah. So yeah, the first one is higher order components. I think we all know what higher order components are, right? Show a quick show of hands. Yeah, almost all. So yeah, this pattern actually helps us write a common code say for example, you have certain code for logging metrics, and then you have code for localization, error handling. So these things are taken care by your higher order components. So I've given a very quick example where this is the higher order component which wraps your widget into a error boundary. You can add your localization, your logging, all these things here, and then you can create a, this is like the widget that is being rendered. This could be a carousel or a title card or anything basically. The player also is a widget. So this is being wrapped by this common higher order component where we can take care of all the reusable code. Next up is compound components. So yeah, compound components is one another pattern that helps us write components that are connected in nature but need to live separately. So yeah, very common example is the option and select example. I think most of you might have read it somewhere when you Google for compound components, compound design patterns, you would get that example. I have given a slightly different example, but does the same thing. Where I have created three components, the title. So title here does not mean the name. Title here means a movie title. It could be a movie or it could be a web series. So that is a very OTT specific term, I can say. So there are three components, one for the header, description and poster. And then we are creating this card, and like what we are doing is inside this card using this compound pattern, we are simply making this basically we are assigning this like title card dot poster. So how this works is whenever we invoke this call this component title card dot poster, what happens is behind the hood this particular component is invoked and the state can be shared. So that is basically the use of this compound design pattern. The next one is custom hooks. Custom hooks, again, I think all of us have used. We have used like React hooks like use effect, use state. Now we can create our own hooks for our custom use cases. This is a quick example where we have checked the orientation of a device, whether the user is in landscape mode or portrait mode. This is a very critical feature when it comes to OTT. So yeah, this is a quick example where we are using a simple window dot what was this? Match media orientation portrait, just using the media queries to understand the orientation of the user, and this basically helps us detect that. Yeah, so next one is selective bundling. Selective bundling is yet another important or critical feature that we implemented that helped us scale to multiple platforms by and remove redundant code base. So there could be scenarios where I want a certain header on the Fire TV variant of my app and not on the mobile. So what I can do is I can create flavors. Now flavors is like just a variant of the app where I am just creating like multiple flavors and using the dynamic imports. What I am doing is I am creating I am basically invoking those variants and bundling them as per the device that is using that particular app. So this is a quick example, like this is the folder structure where we have a desktop web, TV, and a default variant of that component. And the step one is to create that registry. This registry does nothing but based on the platform, it dynamically imports which particular component I need to pick. The second step is implementing a higher order component which internally fetches the current platform, and just like the orientation hook, this is also like we have a custom hook that can fetch the device context and understand which device this particular build is running on, and then based on that it can invoke that particular flavor of the component. So yeah, that is the selective bundling. And the next one is image optimization techniques. So yeah, when someone says image optimization, the first thing that comes to everyone's mind is lazy loading. But yeah, lazy loading is not the only image optimization technique. There are a few more that we use. I'll just quickly run through three examples that we use. The first one is we use a custom media server parameter to upscale or transform images from the server. We do not bring it to the client side and then transform it. Basically what happens is when you request for the same type of same size image and then resize it or transform it on the client side, it takes a while to load. So we have a service which we leverage to add custom URL parameters and tweak the image and get it from the cloud itself. The second one is the image bucketization. So yeah, so the image bucketization is a technique that we use for mainly for larger size devices. Say for example, if you have a TV that is of 1920 and 1080 cross 1080 resolution, and then someone else has a TV of 1920 into cross 1200 resolution. So we do not want to fetch different aspect ratio or different resolution images for both of these devices because they are very close by. So what we do is we break these resolutions into buckets so that we can get the closest one. So that what it does, it leverages the CDN caching technique. So what happens is that, say for example, if I have an image A that has been already fetched from the CDN once, and the device B requires an image which is very similar, then why not utilize the CDN cache for it? So yeah, this is what happens. And the third one is DPR. I think we all know about DPR, how Mac monitors are better than HP or Dell monitors, or like the quality of images improves because of DPR. DPR stands for display pixel ratio, which basically means in a physical pixel how many pixels can be accommodated. So higher the DPR, better is the image quality that is rendered. So again, if you have a screen size which has a higher DPR, you need higher resolution images for them. So yeah, we use that also to take care of that. And yeah, the last but not the least, the secret sauce when it comes to scaling is do your own research and listen to everyone, but figure out what works for you and what does not. Because being strongly opinionated about a particular thing, say for example, this particular thing would work for me and this might not because someone said that, will not help you go scale your app. You need to run constant experimentations, figure out what works for your use case. So this is a very important feature. It from me. Thank you guys for being such a patient audience. And if you guys have any questions or anything, you can feel free to connect with me.